Welcome to today's deep dive into one of the most emotional and dramatic stories to ever come out of the 90-Day Fiancé universe. Elizabeth Pothast and Andrei Castrovet shared a love story that crossed borders but could not survive the battles within. Their relationship was full of passion, pride, and painful decisions. What started as romance slowly turned into betrayal, family conflict, and finally a courtroom battle. Andrei Castrovet wanted to return to his home country, Moldova, with his family to start a new life and build a business there. Elizabeth, however, made it clear that she could not leave her job, her family, or the stability she had in America. Over time, an invisible wall grew between them, caused largely by constant interference from Elizabeth's family. Elizabeth's mother accused Andrei of speaking to her disrespectfully and insulting her. The situation became so intense that her mother gave Elizabeth an ultimatum, telling her that if she did not divorce Andrei, she would no longer be recognized as her daughter. Faced with ongoing family pressure and constant conflict, the couple decided to separate. After 8 years of marriage filled with repeated arguments and unresolved issues, their relationship finally ended. On October 15th, their divorce was officially finalized by the court. After the divorce, Andrei moved forward with his life and later married an Indian woman, hoping to start fresh and plan for his future. But the story did not end there. Elizabeth filed a lawsuit against Andrei, accusing him of borrowing $45,000 from her and never paying it back. After an investigation, the court found Elizabeth's claims to be true. As a result, Andrei was ordered to pay $55,000 as a fine. This is the untold story of how love slowly turned into legal conflict. To understand how everything fell apart, we have to go back to where it all began. Their story started in Dublin, Ireland, a city known for its lively pubs and unexpected encounters. Elizabeth Pothast, a young woman from Tampa, Florida, was traveling abroad when she met Andrei Castrovet, a Moldovan man working as a bouncer. Their connection was instant. Elizabeth was drawn to Andrei's confidence and strong personality, and what began as a casual meeting quickly turned into a long-distance romance. Before meeting Elizabeth, Andrei had left his job as a police detective in Moldova in search of better opportunities in Europe. Elizabeth, meanwhile, returned home and continued working in her family's property management business. Despite their different backgrounds and cultures, they bonded over shared ambitions, humor, and dreams of a future together. When Andrei moved to the United States on a K-1 visa, their relationship faced its first major test. Elizabeth's family, especially her outspoken sisters and skeptical father, immediately questioned Andrei's intentions. They wondered if he truly loved Elizabeth, or if he was only chasing the American dream. The couple married in a small ceremony in Florida, but the tension never disappeared. Andrei struggled to find steady work, while Elizabeth felt caught between supporting her husband and defending him against her family's constant criticism. The cameras of 90-Day Fiancé captured many of their arguments, but behind the scenes, the pressure was even worse. Despite the chaos, the couple welcomed their daughter, Eleanor, in 2019. They hoped that becoming parents would bring peace and stability. For a short time, it did. Andrei tried to build a career in real estate, while Elizabeth focused on motherhood. But the deeper issues, cultural differences, financial stress, and family interference never truly went away. Over time, Andrei began dreaming of returning to Moldova, not just for a visit, but to start over completely. Elizabeth, however, was deeply rooted in Florida. Her family, her job, and her entire life were there. This difference in goals created even more tension between them. From the moment Andrei arrived in Florida, it became clear that he wasn't just marrying Elizabeth. He was marrying into a very opinionated and outspoken family. The Pothast family was close-knit, but known for frequent arguments and strong opinions. They were skeptical of outsiders, especially someone like Andrei. Andrei was raised in a conservative Eastern European household and held traditional views. He believed in being the head of the household, making decisions independently and maintaining authority as a husband and father. Elizabeth's family, however, operated very differently. They were vocal, heavily involved in each other's lives, and never afraid to challenge anyone who disagreed with them. Conflict was unavoidable. Elizabeth's sisters constantly questioned Andrei's motives. Her father, Chuck, doubted Andrei's work ethic and financial goals. Andrei felt disrespected, not only as a man, but as a husband trying to build a life in a foreign country. Family gatherings often turned into heated arguments. One of the most explosive moments happened during a family barbecue, where Andrei's blunt behavior was seen as arrogance. He accused Elizabeth's brother of being lazy and entitled, while Elizabeth's mother, Pamela, was offended by what she described as his aggressive tone. The problem wasn't just cultural differences, it was about values, pride, and control. Elizabeth was stuck in the middle of a battle she never expected to fight. When she defended Andrei, her family accused her of abandoning them. When she sided with her family, Andrei felt betrayed. While the show captured many of these moments, viewers didn't see how deeply the conflict affected their private life. Arguments that began at family events continued at home late into the night. Andrei felt isolated and constantly judged. Elizabeth felt exhausted, trying to keep peace between two sides that refused to understand each other. When Andrei asked Chuck for help joining the family real estate business, it caused even more tension. Elizabeth's family questioned whether Andrei was using her for financial gain. Trust continued to break down on all sides. Over the years, the constant fighting took its toll. Elizabeth became more guarded and cautious. Andrei became frustrated and withdrawn. The love was still there, but it was buried beneath resentment, misunderstanding, and emotional exhaustion. By the time Andrei suggested moving back to Moldova, it wasn't just about business anymore. It was about escaping a life filled with conflict, pressure, and pain. Andrei wanted to escape judgment, conflict, and a family that never truly accepted him. For Elizabeth, leaving meant giving up everything she knew and everyone she loved. For years, Andrei had tried to make America feel like home. He worked odd jobs, studied real estate, and tried to fit into Elizabeth's world. But deep down, Moldova never left his heart. The cobblestone streets, the quiet countryside, the sense of belonging called to him more each year. His desire to return wasn't sudden. It had been simmering for years, especially after repeated clashes with Elizabeth's family. He felt like an outsider in Florida, constantly judged, misunderstood, and on edge. Moldova represented peace, pride, and a fresh start. He imagined opening a small logistics business, buying property, and raising his daughter in a place where he wouldn't be questioned at every turn. Elizabeth saw things differently. Her life was rooted in Tampa. Her job in her father's company gave her stability. Her family, despite the drama, was her emotional anchor. Andrei's dream felt like a threat to everything she had built. She didn't want to uproot her daughter, leave her career, or abandon the support system she relied on. At first, Elizabeth thought Andrei's talk of moving was just frustration. But he was serious. He had already started researching business opportunities in Moldova and suggested they could live near his parents, who would help with childcare. To Andrei, it was logical. To Elizabeth, it was terrifying. Their conversations turned into arguments. Andrei accused Elizabeth of being close-minded and too dependent on her family. Elizabeth accused Andrei of being impulsive and selfish. Even decisions about their daughter Eleanor, her schooling, healthcare, and future became battlegrounds for their deeper conflict. Elizabeth's sisters mocked the idea of Moldova, calling it a step backward. Her mother warned that moving would be the biggest mistake of her life. Her father tried to stay neutral, but reminded her that her job wouldn't follow her overseas. Andrei felt trapped. He believed Elizabeth had changed and was no longer the adventurous woman who fell in love with a foreigner in Dublin. Elizabeth felt betrayed that Andrei was chasing a fantasy instead of their shared reality. The more Andrei pushed, the more Elizabeth pulled away. She spent more time with her family, confiding in her sisters and questioning whether their marriage could survive such a divide. Andrei grew colder and more distant. He started making solo trips to Moldova, laying the groundwork for a life Elizabeth wasn't sure she wanted to join. Their once passionate love story had become a tug-of-war between two countries, two cultures, and two visions of the future, and neither was willing to compromise. The idea of moving to Moldova wasn't just a plan, it was a turning point. Elizabeth had always been the peacemaker. the one who tried to see both sides, who smiled through chaos, who believed love could conquer anything. But now she was at a crossroads. Whatever choice she made, someone would be hurt. Andrei's plan wasn't just a logistical challenge. It was a psychological earthquake. Elizabeth's job, her daughter's future, and her entire life were rooted in America. Moldova felt distant, unfamiliar, and full of uncertainty. She tried to reason with Andrei. "We can visit Moldova," she said. "We can invest there. But I can't leave everything behind." Andrei wasn't interested in compromise. He wanted a full relocation, a new life, a new business, and a clean break from the toxic dynamics of Elizabeth's family. But leaving wasn't just geographical. Her father had given her a stable job. Her sisters were her emotional lifelines, and her mother, though critical, was a powerful presence in her life. Leaving would mean severing ties emotionally, not just physically. The pressure mounted. Elizabeth began having panic attacks, waking in the middle of the night with her mind racing. What if Moldova didn't work out? What if Andrei failed to build the business he dreamed of? What if Eleanor missed opportunities in America? Most terrifying of all, what if she lost her family forever? Her mother's words haunted her. "If you move to Moldova, you're choosing him over us." Andrei grew colder too. He accused Elizabeth of being manipulated, of lacking courage, of choosing comfort over risk. Their home became a battlefield. Conversations turned into shouting matches. Eleanor, too young to understand, began sensing the tension. Elizabeth tried to shield her, but the emotional toll was clear. One night, after a particularly brutal argument, Elizabeth sat alone in her car outside her parents' house. Tears streamed down her face. She loved Andrei. She had fought for him, defended him, and built a life with him. But now she felt like she was losing herself. She confided in her sisters, who urged her to think long term. "You have to protect your daughter," one said. "You can't follow a man into uncertainty." Her father offered her a promotion at work, a subtle way to anchor her to Florida. Her mother was less subtle. "If you don't choose your family," she said, "then you're no longer my daughter." Elizabeth was torn. Her heart pulled her toward Andrei, the man she once believed was her soulmate. Her mind and family pulled her back to the life she knew. In the end, it wasn't just about Moldova. It was about identity, autonomy, and survival. She had to choose the man who wanted to build a new world or the family that had built hers. The tension had been building for months, but it finally exploded. What was supposed to be a simple family lunch turned into a confrontation. Elizabeth was with her mother Pamela and her sisters. Andrei stayed home with Eleanor, giving Elizabeth space to reconnect. But the conversation quickly turned harsh. Pamela, still angry about Andrei's comments at a family gathering, brought up the Moldova plan again. "He wants to take you away from us," she said sharply. "He wants to isolate you." "That's not love, Elizabeth. That's control." Elizabeth tried to defend him. "He's not trying to control me. He just wants a fresh start. He's tired of feeling attacked." Pamela wasn't listening. "Attacked? He insulted me in my own home. He speaks to me like I'm beneath him and you let him." The room went silent. Elizabeth's hands trembled as she reached for her water. She had heard accusations like this before, but her mother's tone was colder, final. "Elizabeth, if you don't divorce your husband, Andrei Castrovet, then from today, you are no longer my daughter. I will not recognize you as my child anymore." The words hit Elizabeth like a punch. "Mom, you don't mean that," she gasped. "I do," Pamela replied. "You've chosen him over your family again and again. If you go to Moldova, if you stay married to him, then you've made your choice, and I'm done." The weight of her mother's words hung over Elizabeth like a dark cloud. Every decision, every thought felt heavier. She loved Andrei, but the reality was inescapable. Choosing him could mean losing the family who had shaped her entire life. The woman who had once been her anchor now demanded a choice she wasn't sure she could make. Elizabeth spent hours in her room, staring at her phone, rereading old messages from Andrei. Their conversations used to be filled with laughter, plans, and dreams of a future together. Now they were dominated by tension, resentment, and ultimatums. Andrei, meanwhile, felt misunderstood and trapped in a foreign country. He had moved halfway across the world for love, yet he felt judged and unwelcome in the very home he had tried to build. Each family gathering, each well-meaning comment from Elizabeth's relatives felt like a critique, a reminder that he didn't belong. He longed for the quiet of Moldova, for streets that felt familiar, for family who understood him without suspicion. But Elizabeth's refusal to relocate felt like a rejection of not only his dream, but of his identity. They continued to argue. Conversations that began about their daughter's schooling, the next family vacation, or weekend plans often spiraled into fights about loyalty, culture, and respect. Elizabeth accused Andrei of being self-centered and insensitive to her responsibilities. Andrei accused Elizabeth of being complacent and afraid to take risks. The love that once brought them together now seemed like a memory from a different life, overshadowed by a deepening cultural and emotional divide. Despite the tension, they tried to hold their family together. They both loved Eleanor fiercely and hoped that parenting would give them common ground. But even motherhood couldn't shield them from their differences. Every decision became a subtle battleground. Andrei suggested activities that reminded him of Moldova, like enrolling Eleanor in a music class he remembered fondly from his childhood. Elizabeth wanted to keep her routines in Tampa, where she could rely on her parents and sisters for support. Both felt justified, and neither was willing to compromise. Elizabeth's sisters noticed the growing rift and became more vocal. "This isn't just about a move," one sister said. "He's trying to rewrite your life." Their words, though protective, only increased Elizabeth's anxiety. She began to feel guilty for even considering Andrei's perspective. At the same time, she felt trapped. Her mother's ultimatum echoed in her mind constantly, making it impossible to see a path forward where she could be happy with Andrei without betraying her family. Andrei, frustrated and lonely, began making longer trips back to Moldova. He scouted potential properties, spoke with business contacts, and even envisioned a future where Eleanor would grow up surrounded by his culture and traditions. Each return to Moldova fueled his hope, but each trip also widened the gap between him and Elizabeth. He started to consider the reality that their marriage might not survive if she refused to move. The stress took a toll on Elizabeth's mental health. Panic attacks became more frequent. She would wake up in the middle of the night, her heart racing, her mind filled with worst-case scenarios. What if Andrei failed? What if Eleanor struggled to adjust to a new country? What if moving destroyed their family relationships permanently? And most painful of all, what if she ended up losing both her husband and her family? Andrei, too, was suffering, though in silence. He felt cornered by expectations, judged for every choice he made. He began withdrawing emotionally, retreating to his own thoughts and dreams of Moldova. The warmth and excitement that had once defined their relationship was replaced by cold pragmatism. The once vibrant love story was now a fragile truce, a series of compromises neither truly wanted to make. Eventually, the tension reached a breaking point. Elizabeth's mother, Pamela, made it clear she would not accept Andrei under any circumstances if Elizabeth chose to follow him to Moldova. Her words weren't just stern warnings. They were ultimatums that carried the weight of finality. Elizabeth realized that staying with Andrei meant not only leaving her life behind, but also risking the relationship with her parents, her sisters, and her extended family. Every path seemed impossible, every choice a loss. Elizabeth tried one last time to reason with Andrei. "We can visit Moldova," she pleaded. "We can invest, we can plan, but I cannot leave my life behind. I cannot abandon Eleanor's roots, my career, or my family." Andrei, however, had already made up his mind. He wanted a fresh start, free from conflict, free from judgment, and free to live life on his own terms. Their conversations turned into arguments, and the arguments became routine. The fight for control over their future extended into their home. Ordinary tasks like planning meals or deciding on weekend activities became flashpoints. The love they shared seemed buried beneath resentment, frustration, and fear. Eleanor, too young to understand the full complexity of the conflict, started sensing the tension. She became quieter, more cautious, unsure of how to navigate the storm that had become her home. Both parents tried to shield her, but it was impossible to hide the constant undercurrent of fear and anxiety. Elizabeth began to rely even more on her sisters and father for guidance. Her sisters urged her to protect Eleanor, reminding her that stability and family support were crucial. Her father encouraged her to focus on her career, offering opportunities that would tie her to Florida and create a sense of security. Her mother, however, remained unyielding, delivering the message that Elizabeth's choice had consequences, severing family ties if she refused to comply.